Hi, and welcome to the Boss Body Podcast. This is Sarah Haas, and I am so glad you are with me. Have you ever wondered what the secret is to living a long, healthy life? That's what we all want, right? And there may be more to it than you think, because when I ask that question, I'm sure the first thing that comes to your mind is eating well and exercise, which, of course, those two are foundational. But I want to tell you today about a guy by the name of Dan Buettner. He is a journalist and he set out to find the healthiest, longest living populations in the world and to discover what it is that they were doing so right. And so he gathered a group of scientists and epidemiologists and anthropologists and a whole group of people to go around the globe and study these little pockets, these little communities of people that he had identified as having the largest percentage of centenarians, which is people who are 100 years old or older. And he was able to identify 5 different regions in the world where this was happening. And he and his group literally were circling these on the map with a blue magic marker. And that's how the name Blue Zones came about. So he has since written several books about the blue zones. And I wanted to share some of what he found with you because I think this is going to be so useful when you're thinking about health and longevity and all the different elements that need to come together in order for you to live a long, happy, healthy life. So, when he started investigating and going to visit these different communities, he was seeing a lot of similarities in their habits and in their environments. And I want to share some of those with you today because we as Americans, unfortunately, are inundated with greasy fast food and sugar and convenience foods and artificial ingredients. And sadly, they call that the standard American diet, SAD, which is tragic. And compared to other developed countries in the world, we spend the most money per capita on healthcare. However, we have the lowest life expectancy. We have the highest number of hospitalizations from preventable causes, and we have the highest rate of avoidable deaths, and our obesity rate is 2 times higher than that of all other developed countries. So that is significant. And these so-called blue zones are largely free of illnesses and diseases like heart disease, obesity, cancer, and diabetes. And there's a common thread between these groups of people. So I want to tell you about these 5 blue zones. The first one is Loma Linda, California, here in the United States. It's the only one in the US. And the thing that's unique about Loma Linda is they have a large community of Seventh day Adventists, which is a religious group who typically follows a vegetarian diet and they eat very little meat. They also don't smoke or drink or eat processed sugar. And the people in Loma Linda they outlive the average American by nearly a decade. The second blue zone is Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica. So in Nicoya Peninsula, the people who live there are twice as likely to reach the age of 90 than other North Americans. And they have very few incidences of people with disabilities and with cognitive decline. And their diet consists primarily of rice and beans and fish. They pretty much avoid processed and refined foods, and they have an active lifestyle. And another thing that they noticed about this group is that they very much emphasize faith and family. So you're going to start seeing some common threads between these different groups. The third one is Sardinia, Italy. And this is the home to the longest living men in the world. And their diets are mostly plant-based, and they eat lots of vegetables, fruit, beans, and whole grains. And they get a lot of walking in natural daily movement. They live in a hilly terrain, and they're walking long distances every day. And when they asked some of the Sardinians how they explain their longevity, some of the things that came up were clean air, locally produced wine, making love every Sunday, and prioritizing strong interpersonal relationships. So I hope you can see that some of the things that we're starting to see as a pattern have nothing to do with the food and the exercise, because there's so much more. The fourth one is Icaria, Greece. And there they eat mostly a Mediterranean diet. Again, they're eating mostly plant-based foods, olive oil, fish, and they engage in regular physical activity. People there remain physically active well into their 80s and 90s, and they do lots of socializing with friends and family. And another thing that I love about this community is they are believers in midday naps. It's a regular practice there. The fifth blue zone, the final one, is Okinawa, Japan. And the people here typically live well into their 80s and beyond. Most of them live without disability or a lot of the illnesses that affect people in North America. They have lower rates of age-related conditions like cardiovascular disease and cancer. And one of their philosophies is to eat something from the land and the sea every single day. So they eat a lot of seaweed and tofu and garlic and brown rice. They drink green tea, and they eat a lot of shiitake mushrooms. So let's talk about some of these lifestyle commonalities that Mr. Buettner and his group discovered between the people in the blue zones that contribute to their emotional well-being, their disease prevention, and their longevity. One of them, I think you probably noticed, that came up over and over again is natural movement. Everyday physical activities, gardening, walking, hiking, climbing hills and mountains, just in their natural everyday life. And we as Americans really don't do that. We have a lot of sedentary jobs. We're sitting a lot of the time, and we may go to the gym deliberately and get like an hour of some kind of body movement in, which is certainly better than nothing. But it's so beneficial to be getting out there and actually just walking in nature, walking to where you need to go instead of driving, parking far away from your office so that you have a little walk to get in the door. Anywhere you can work in just some everyday physical activity is going to be extremely beneficial to living a long, healthy life. The other thing they noticed is that these groups all had a very strong sense of purpose. So in Okinawa, they call it ikigai. Ikigai. I'm sure I'm not saying that right. And in Nicoya, they call it plan de vida, which these translate into why I wake up in the morning. So they have a greater purpose in life. They have a reason to get up every morning, something that fills them with joy and gives them a purpose. They have hobbies, they have fulfilling careers, and they focus on their own personal growth and development. And this shows to improve happiness and self-esteem and gratitude and your positive outlook on life. And if you have a positive outlook, you're shown to live longer. The other thing is they're great at stress management. So stress is impossible to avoid, especially in our busy lives and in today's day and time. But the issue is when you're under chronic long-term stress. So if you have a job that is stressing you out, if you have family situations or relationship situations or whatever it is in your life that is constantly giving you stress, it wreaks havoc on your body. It causes inflammation. It eventually can lead to heart disease and depression. And so it's really important to find ways to manage your stress. And these populations in the world that live the longest do things such as napping or praying or meditating and socializing and spending time with friends and family, all of which go a long way to reducing those stress levels. Most of these communities also follow an 80% rule. So instead of eating until they're stuffed, which I know a lot of us are so guilty of doing, they eat until their stomachs are about 80% full. So that way there's room in their stomach to digest. And really, when you are mindful about eating and you stop when you're 80% full, if you give it about 10 minutes, you'll see that you really are completely satisfied. They also abstain from eating late in the evenings. And this is another issue that I come across so often. So a lot of that is related to emotional eating. And that goes back to dealing with stress and dealing with issues in your life that are causing you to want to eat emotionally. And the fifth commonality that all these communities had in common was eating a mostly plant-based diet. Most of them eat only small amounts of meat. They eat more like a Mediterranean type diet with lots of fruits and vegetables and whole grains and nuts and seeds and beans and healthy oils like extra virgin olive oil. And another thing they do, which a lot of you will like hearing this, is they drink wine in moderation. So 1 glass a day, 2 at the most if you're a man, 1 if you're a woman. Sitting down while you're eating dinner with your family and friends is a common practice, except, of course, with the Seventh-day Adventists that were in Loma Linda, California. They abstain from alcohol. But keep in mind, that is not a go ahead to just drink a whole bottle of wine every night. You want to keep it very, very moderate. And that's sort of a controversial thing, because a lot of countries around the world who drink wine regularly live long and have lower incidences of disease. But there are a lot of studies that show that the more alcohol you drink, the more incidence of other certain diseases you may have. So I encourage you to do that research on yourself and for yourself and come up with what is the best thing for you in that situation. Personally, being a breast cancer survivor, the research I have done shows that there is a higher incidence of women getting breast cancer if you drink more than 2 or 3 glasses a week. So anyway, for me, that is what's best. That may not be what's best for you, so I'll just leave it at that. Another thing was social networks. This is huge. They have social circles, and the people that they are with all the time also have healthy lifestyles and behaviors. It's peer pressure, guys. You know that you're going to engage in whatever activities the people around you are engaging in. So if you keep a group of people with your same goals of having a healthy lifestyle and doing these positive behaviors, that's going to rub off on you. And another one was spirituality. So belonging to some kind of faith-based community. This could be a religious affiliation or something spiritual. They found that that can add up to between 4 and 14 years to your life expectancy. They had improved immune system functions and lower risk of heart disease. So it's really important just to find that connection that works for you with your higher power, with the universe, with whatever it is that allows you to know that you're not doing this here alone, that somebody has your back and that your needs are going to be taken care of and that you are loved unconditionally. And the last one that came up over and over again is family relationships. The people who live the longest really make their family a priority. They make it a point to spend lots of time with their children. They have committed life partners. And it's really common for aging parents and grandparents to live with their children or other family members. And they also contribute to the household responsibilities and the child care. And that all goes back to that connectedness, that sense of purpose, that meaning for living, and those strong family bonds and the love that you experience has such a positive effect on your health and your life expectancy. So here's a recap of the takeaways. If you want to live a long, healthy life, longevity is not just about food. It's also about moving your body. It's about having social circles that reinforce your healthy behaviors. It's being part of communities, maybe religious or otherwise, so that you have connection and you're not isolated. It's about taking time to do things that de-stress you and also having a strong connection with your family. So if you are interested in hearing more about the blue zones, Dan Buettner has written several books. One is called The Blue Zones, another, The Blue Zone Solution, Thrive, and The Blue Zones of Happiness. So I encourage you to look into those because there's so much more than what I can cover here in just a few minutes. And there's so many things that you could be doing that will only improve your health, your vitality, your longevity, aging well, feeling great, being able to do everything that you want to do in life. So I encourage you to check that out. All right. That is all for now. Thank you again for being here with me, and I will see you next time.